Hello and welcome to the podcast that contains the board recap of July 15th of 2024. We are glad to have you with us. Let's jump right into good news if we could. So we had two good news items last night. The first was really a recap of our high school summer school where we were really fortunate to award 218 credits, including 14 students who have now completed their graduation requirements at summer school. And we also had a record high percentage of summer school students who earned at least one credit, and that would be more than 2/3 of the high school students that attended summer school. So then moving on to some really exciting news. This is the 36th annual production of the EVSC Foundation Summer Musical. This year's production is Mean Girls, and I really invite everybody out to take in the outstanding talent that our students have. It will be on full display July the 18th through the 21st at the Aiken Theater in the Old National Events Plaza. Still, certainly, it's time to get your tickets. I guarantee you it will be a very good time, and certainly looking forward to the production of Mean Girls. Now, getting into the board agenda itself, we will start with consent item 3.02, which is the consideration of allowance of payments. So we had 3 weeks in between the last board meeting and this board meeting. So we actually had two pay runs, which really is the significant reason why this is a larger amount than what is typical. That being 18,840. I'm sorry, let me do that again. 18,874,684.12. And then moving on to item 3.03, consideration to approve grant proposals. There was one grant proposal, and this is really could have been under good news. Welborn Baptist Foundation does incredible work in our community, and they have a program called Upgrade in Schools. It is primarily an elementary program that really emphasizes physical fitness and health and wellness among our students. We have several schools that are involved with this that actually are Central High School feeders. So the principal at Central has written this grant to the Welborn Baptist Foundation to carry some of that work forward into the high school. So certainly hope that that is a grant that is awarded to EVSC. Moving on then to consent item 3.04, consideration to approve the renewal with NWEA. And this is a little bit different this year in that it does reflect a significant decrease of over $93,000 because EVSC is participating in the Indiana Department of Education's iLearn Checkpoint pilot, and that will be significant for our students as well as our staff in grades 3 through 8. Because of that, not every school is going to utilize NWEA in grades 3 through 8. A few will, but we will use it primarily for kindergarten through second and then also in our high schools. Also, we'll use this as part of the screening process for our high ability students. And there are going to be some elementary and a few middle schools that will still continue to use NWA as well as participating in IDOE's pilot program for the iLearn checkpoint. So if you're not familiar with what the iLearn checkpoint is, starting in the 25-26 school year, all schools in Indiana will be required to do the iLearn checkpoint process, which is really a series of 3 smaller checkpoints along the way, beginning of the year, middle of the year, end of the year, as well as that ending, culminating iLearn for summative assessment, which really is what we have now, just one time a year. But IDOE is moving to 3 checkpoints and then that one large summative assessment at the end of the school year. Moving on then to item 3.05, consideration to approve the agreement with Mass Insight Education. Mass Insight Education has been a long-standing partner with EVSC, and we certainly value their work. I think it best to summarize this is a continuation of the work that now could be in its 3rd year, specifically with Mass Insight, but really looking forward to their continued coaching, research, and design support as we look to focus on our Tier 1 instruction as well as our special education and then behaviors and discipline. So, as I said, just a moment ago, I certainly do appreciate the value that Mass Insight brings to us. Moving on to item 3.06, consideration to approve the renewal agreement with Panorama Education. This also, excuse me, represents a significant decrease of $25,500, primarily because we are no longer using Panorama to survey our students. We will use Panorama now for teacher input on our students, and this gives us very important information that is actually required for many of the grants that we apply for. And then moving on to item 3.07, consideration to approve the renewal agreement with Reflection Sciences. So if you are a frequent listener to our podcast, you have heard us talk about the MIFS, which is the Minnesota Executive Functioning Scale. This does measure our executive functioning in our kindergarten students. We are growing that now next year to our pre-K students, and then also this year established baseline data for kindergarten students. So then next year we will also perform that assessment for our first grade students. It doesn't take a lot of time. It does generate a good bit of very important information for us to help our students be in the best position possible to learn all the important things that we need them to learn. Moving on then to item 3.08, consideration to approve the renewal with Marzano Evaluation Center. As you may know, there's a state law that requires us to evaluate all of our certified staff, meaning administrators and teachers. So this renewal is to allow us to continue to use this tool that helps us perform those evaluations. Moving on then to item 3.09, consideration to approve the renewal with Frontline Education Absence and Substitute Management. We've been with Frontline for a number of years, specifically for our substitute management. We're also subscribing to an additional service, which is called Human Capital Analytics Enhancement. This will allow us to review data and help us to make certain that we can get a highly qualified substitute in every classroom when a teacher is out. And then finally, under consent, item 3.10, consideration to approve the 24-25 school rules and responsibilities. So this is approved by the board on an annual basis. I think the major change here is the wireless communication devices and the state law that has been in effect just since July 1st of this year, which stipulates that the use of any wireless web-enabled device capable of allowing voice or messaging between two or more parties is prohibited during instructional time, including passing periods. So that has now been embedded in school rules, and parents of our students will need to stay tuned because individual schools will be providing additional information to our families and students to really spell out specifically what that means for our students. Moving on then to item 4.01, which are the personnel recommendations. And as I typically say, those are there for your perusal, and I encourage you to click on that to see the changes in personnel that have taken place. Then the only action item that we had was consideration to adopt policy 3540, which is the teacher appreciation grants. Teacher appreciation grants are funds that are set aside by the Indiana General Assembly specifically to pay teachers a small stipend in the state of Indiana that have been, through the evaluation process, found to be evaluated as effective or highly effective. That law requires every school board in the state to approve annually a resolution that says how they will distribute those funds. That then is submitted to the Indiana Department of Education. Then the Indiana Department of Education either approves or rejects that resolution. If they reject, then teachers in that particular district will not see any funds from that TAG grant. When IDOE does approve that, then in December, typically that's when those funds are released. And the other stipulation is that we have to differentiate in that stipend by 25% those teachers that are evaluated as highly effective versus those that are rated effective. And then under information, there were 6 items. 5 of those items are the monthly financial reports that Dr. Underwood provides the board. And then 6.05 was the self-insurance quarterly analysis, and that is what it says it is. We provide that to our board on a quarterly basis, and all of those reports are there for your perusal. And as we've mentioned numerous times, all of those reports, uh, e- except for the self-insurance quarterly report, go back to 2008 on board docs. And the reason why self-insurance doesn't go back that far is that we were not self-insured that long ago. We were fully insured, and then we moved to self-insurance. And then item 7.01 under continued business. So this was a very unusual agenda item. I don't think that I have ever seen in my tenure, certainly as superintendent or in my tenure as an employee of the school corporation, nor has Pat Shoulders in his 35 years of being our general counsel seen the confluence of several items that came together to present a very unique situation. We did have a board seat that became vacant. And during continued business, I turned this portion of the meeting over to Pat Shoulders to really provide a summary of the events that led to how that vacancy occurred, and then also the process by which the board needed to make an appointment to that vacancy. So after Pat Shoulders provided that summary, then there is a motion and a second to nominate Josh Barnett. There's a motion and a second to nominate Amy DeVries. And then there's a motion that then died for lack of a second to nominate Jeff Worthington to fill that vacancy. I think it's important to note that both Mr. Barnett and Mrs. DeVries are candidates for that third district seat. So that means that they have been vetted by the Vanderbilt County Election Board and the clerk as far as meeting all of the requirements. So, as I said, this is a very unusual circumstance brought about by situations that have come together that I've never seen before. And I don't think anyone in the state has seen before. There is actually no prescribed process by which the board has to operate, except that in law, as well as their policy, they have to make an appointment within 30 days of that seat becoming vacant. The seat became vacant on June the 28th. July the 15th was the only board meeting that was scheduled in that 30-day window. So that is why the board took the action that they did on the 15th meeting. So roll call vote was taken, and the result of that roll call vote was Joshua Barnett was appointed to fill the vacancy in District 3. So he will fill that vacancy until December 31st. The voters will have the final say during the general election in early November, and then the outcome of that election will determine who fills this vacancy for 4 years, commencing in 2025. And that, I think, is a good, solid recap of the July 15th board meeting. Certainly appreciate you watching this, certainly to our regular viewers. And if you are new to this, we certainly want to be very transparent in the dealings that we have with the board. We have regularly scheduled board meetings that certainly the audience can attend or listen to on our radio station. And then prior to every board meeting, we also have town halls where patrons can come in and have one-on-one discussion with board members. So certainly encourage you to take advantage of those opportunities. And thank you so much for listening. Take care and God bless.